Welcome to Get Organized at Work. I'm your host, Kayla Fahey-Ahrndt, healthcare leader, mom of three, and your go-to guide for ditching the chaos and taking control of your workday. This is the show where we turn overwhelming to-do lists into clear, actionable plans so you can crush your goals and show up as your best self at work and in your life. Whether you're here for strategies to stay ahead or systems to simplify your workday, you're in the right place. Let's get organized, have some fun, and make this year your best year in your career yet. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to Get Organized at Work podcast. I'm Kayla, I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about how your why fuels consistency at work and in leadership. So last week on Get Organized at Work podcast, we talked all about consistency over perfection and how to beat that cycle of procrastination and why it's so important. And today I wanted to go into one way to help us with consistency and one way to help us feel more strongly pulled toward doing the things that we love in our work. And that is knowing our why. So consistency isn't just about willpower, it's about alignment. And so if we have alignment through our why, if we know why we're doing something, then we feel like it's easy to do that thing. When we don't know why we're doing something, it can feel heavy, annoying, or even like an obligation or a chore. So today I was going to share with you some of my whys for why I do my work as inspiration for you to then start to think about why you are doing your work. And knowing that maybe when you first started in your career, that why was different, and think about how it's evolved over time. So by the end of this episode, I want you to take away the fact that consistency without purpose, like I said, feels like a chore, but consistency with a why behind it feels like an investment. It feels like progress. It feels like purpose. All right, let's get down to it. If you've been in my leadership circle over the years, maybe you've heard some of my why stories, but I know I haven't shared it that often on the podcast or in a while, let's say. So I thought I would go ahead and share it. But first, I just wanted to say work and leadership does come with obstacles and setbacks, slow progress. If you've been in my, let's say, immediate leadership circle over the years, you've probably heard my why a few times. And I was thinking about this, and on the podcast, I don't think that I've shared it in a while or that frequently. So I thought, let's share it. But before I do, I wanted to say that work and leadership is full of obstacles. I've talked about recently how success doesn't look like a straight arrow up. It's a stepping stone. It's up and down and stagnant over time. And over time, at the end of the day, when you look back, you've come a long way, and that is success. But it doesn't mean that along the way there was slow progress or unexpected challenges. So my why, whenever I'm struggling, whenever I have setbacks or obstacles, it's really the thing that grounds me. Just to like mix analogies, you can also think of it as your anchor. It keeps you from giving up when just the daily motivation fades, when the day feels like a grind, when it feels monotonous and you're wondering like, why am I doing this? It's a good thing to think about, what is my purpose and what's my why? Because when you have a purpose, that helps you endure. So I'll share a couple stories, my personal stories of my why. So you all know from being on this podcast, hopefully, that I am a laboratory scientist. So I have my degree in medical laboratory sciences. So I love to say when people ask me what I do, I always say I'm a scientist because that's the main thing, right? So I'm a medical laboratory scientist by training, by national board certification. And then eventually I worked in a clinical laboratory in a hospital setting, and then kind of climbed the ranks / just did different things that I loved over the years. I taught students, new employees. I was a lead for a really short time and then became the technical specialist for our blood bank laboratory. Eventually took on people leadership as well as the technical stuff. So it was like the supervisor / specialist all in one, and then eventually became a manager and then program manager. So I now do see myself more as like a business operations person, as opposed to scientist. I use both skills frequently in different ways than when I first started in my career 13, 14 years ago. I always have to remind myself of, oh, hey, why did I go into this when I'm looking at spreadsheets or finances? Why did I go into this? Oh, because I'm a science nerd. And that's one of the first reasons. And all of my life, I've loved science in the laboratory. When I was a kid, I had some iron deficiency anemia, and I had to go to the lab to get my blood drawn a lot to check on that. And I do remember being in the hospital lab looking around like, huh, what is this place? Like, this is kind of cool. And then over the years, I just really liked science classes. And then in fifth grade, when I was 10, my dad had a really bad spell and ended up in the hospital. And we realized that he had Crohn's disease. So that's the first time we learned that. And he had many surgeries, even almost didn't make it a few times, and they had to bring him back. So that's been a really tough challenge for him and our family over the years. He's doing great now, but it means that he's been, having treatments in and out of the hospital. So I've always sort of been familiar with the hospital, knew about chronic disease, knew about like iron deficiency, so blood bank, like what I'm doing, and thought that was super cool. And then I remember in eighth grade, somebody asked, like, what do you want to be? Like, what are you thinking about? And I was like, I want to work in a hospital lab. Like, I don't even know if I really knew what that was, but I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And in high school, they did articles on the seniors. Mine, that's what I said. I wanted to go to school and cure cancer and work in a hospital lab. And so when I went to college, I did go into that. But before that, in eighth grade, I did have a teacher who had cancer, and her name was Irene Dosey. And she made a huge impact on my life. This lady was the most sarcastic lady, had the best English skills. She was an English teacher, loved to just like do play on words. She loved to read us amazing books. She was so resilient. And at the beginning of the school year, she had to go out for several weeks. And then I remember when she came back, she was this small, sunken in version of herself, just this tiny thing, came up, hobbling up, not looking great, basically just so skinny and famished, really. That's what it looked like. And she sat in her stool in front of the class and told us that, hey, I have cancer. But I was sitting at home getting my treatment, sitting on the couch feeling sorry for myself. But I wanted to be here for you guys because that's what lights me up. I love to teach. So I'm here. I'm here back for you guys. And I just remember thinking, like, wow, like somebody's so passionate about what they do that they just can't be away from it, even when they're going through the worst thing in their entire life. So I always think of Mrs. Dosey. She's a sweetheart. She wrote my yearbook, I'll Always Be With You. There were so many inside jokes between me and her and among all of us students, just because every day was about her living with cancer, but also showing up to teach us. We knew that she was having a hard time. She would make fun of herself when she made an error or had shaky hands or something like that. And we just loved her for it. We thought that's authentic, that's true. And so I was really motivated to help her. After I graduated and started high school, she passed away. So I didn't get a lot of time with Mrs. Dosey, but she made a huge impact on myself. I also had a seventh grade teacher who passed away the year that he retired and from a heart attack. He was planning to remodel his cabin that he was fixing up and live there in retirement. And he had promised to take us on our eighth grade trip to Washington, D.C. And he never made it. So we went to D.C. without him, which was really heartbreaking for us. So I had two teachers who made a huge impact on my life that I loved. Mr. Sternberg, he thought I was going to be a lawyer. He took me today on the Hill. I wrote a law day essay. He was just this funny guy. He just always encouraged me to be the best version of myself. And then Mrs. Dosey, who passed away after he passed away. And so I've always been motivated, like, wow, I've really got to make a big impact in this world because these people made a huge impact on me. And then paired with my love of science and interested in cancer research, I was like, I got to go into this career. And so, along the way, you start college, you think you want to major in microbiology, you realize like, oh, it's not for me. You stumble upon medical laboratory sciences, and then, you're somehow a program manager over the years. And so it's a huge leap from, it's been a long time since eighth grade when I think about Mrs. Dosey or seventh grade Mr. Hal Sternberg, but to this day, when I'm struggling, I think about them showing up in their hardest times for us, for me, for their students, and thinking like, that was huge. What if just one simple gesture that I made helped somebody else in my career? Whether that's helping my team when it comes to leadership, thinking about how I can support them, remove barriers for them, even like monotonous things like the financial spreadsheets. I think about that and I'm like, this does matter because if I run a really efficient team, then we make more progress towards helping people, even if it's indirect. So I've told my story about Miss Dosey, especially in interviews that I've applied to, and people ask me, like, why am I in healthcare? I also ask in interviews for the people that join my team, what's their purpose? Because I know this job is hard. Being a leader is hard. Working in healthcare is hard. And if you don't have a personal why, it's going to be really hard to stay in it. And it's going to be hard to be resilient. I know that most people do have a why, but they haven't always really thought about it or articulated it to someone else. So I think one of the best things you can do is share about it and share about it frequently because it then does come into your mind. I remember in an interview, I told them that one experience, I had a really rough day and I just kind of like was talking to Mrs. Dosey, looking up at the sky as I'm driving, like, Irene, today was a really hard day. I'm doing this. I'm still doing this. And hopefully, she heard me and was there for me. But to me, that just grounds me and reminds me like, even when this is hard, like I know how I'd want to show up. And it's similar to the way that Mr. Sternberg and Mrs. Dosey showed up for me. So I want to help you find your why. And I have 3 quick questions that you can ask yourself to start to uncover it. But I really want you to focus on thinking about your past experiences, your lens that you've lived your life through, and how that might have directed you to be in the place that you're at right now. And for some of you, you'll ask those tough questions and you'll be like, wow, this isn't really where I need to be. If you're seriously thinking about the alignment and the values that you have and how those could match up with your career, and that's great because then you can pivot. But if these leadership skills, this professional position you're in right now, where you're trying to get organized and grow, if this is really in alignment for you, you will take these questions seriously and be like, oh, I wonder how I ended up here. It's not by chance. Nothing happens. Everything happens like it's supposed to, or for a reason. I do believe that, even if that feels woo woo. So really think about how your lived experience shaped you and how you ended up where you are today. And then you can ask these 3 questions, maybe journal over it. Number 1 is, what impact do I want to have in my role, my organization, and life? Start thinking about the broader impact that you can have. It's not about your to-do list, the items that you check off. It's about the bigger picture. It's about over the year, what are the wonderful things that you can do? I don't know if you could hear that, but my Alexa just told me my washing machine's done. So sorry about that. In my role as program manager this year, I've been really thinking about that. And I have my master's in public health, and I'm obsessed with thinking about population health. I really love thinking about healthcare access issues. And for me, something I've been, thinking about and brainstorming on is how could I ensure greater access to blood transfusion or to healthcare or laboratory services? So what is the impact you want to have in your role, your organization, and your life? Do you want to spread positivity? Do you want to make life easier for other people? Do you want to increase, healthcare access? Do you want to help people have shorter hospital stays? What is it? Number 2, when do I feel most energized and proud at work? Like, what are the days or the things that happen where you are about to sign off and you're like, wow, like today felt great. Today felt so good. I'm so proud. Like, I cannot wait to go home and tell my people about the awesome thing that happened today. When do you feel just extra jazzed and proud? So proud that you want to tell people about it. And the 3rd question you can ask is, what would happen if I stopped showing up? I know people are going to be cynical about this, like, oh, they'll just replace me. But seriously, long term, if the work that you didn't happen, who would it affect? Like, let's say they just eliminated it. I want you to be so passionate about the work that you do that you couldn't think of the idea of just like the work never going on. What's your legacy? So you can start to journal. When my work feels meaningful, it's because. So try thinking of an everyday task of, something like, okay, I'm in meetings with my people and it's really hard because I have to show up every day and just like perform because I have to be on. And maybe flip it in a different way and say, well, if my overall goal and my impact is to serve others and to really remove barriers for them so we can take care of more patients, for example, those meetings are really important because that's the human touch to our work. That's where I get to help other people be better. And so I have to show up in a certain way to be able to accomplish that. So think about those 3 questions. Think about the journal prompt. When my work feels most meaningful, it's because. And see if you can give yourself some examples of things that you're just like, feeling kind of dreadful about, and flip the mindset to make it really aligned with your purpose. I also want to encourage you to combine your why with small, consistent actions because your why sets the direction. Like, here's where I want to go. But consistency is really the vehicle, the car, the thing that takes you there, right? Showing up every day is how you actually get in that direction. So I want you to think of how you can revisit your why every week. Is it a 5-minute reflection you can do? Is it a daily action with a reminder of your why? For example, I used to have a picture of Mrs. Dosey and me at my 8th grade graduation in front of me at my desk every day. And I would see that and I'd be like, wow. I also used to have a picture of myself and a bunch of volunteers and people that worked at the American Cancer Society. And not to be morbid, but it was us at a funeral of a loved one and a friend who was also a volunteer. And Robbie Ann was her name. She was an amazing person. And I know that she would have been happy to see us all together that day. And everything that we did around healthcare access to chemo, all of that was through a lot of her story. And so when I'm working in healthcare and the days are hard, I would just think of Robbie Ann and think like, wow, all the work we did in healthcare definitely helped her extend her life and have better days. There's more work to do. And that was really motivating and also just uplifting seeing that picture every day. So just know that if you focus on showing up with your why, then you're going to be aligned and consistency won't feel so hard. You're going to be super excited to show up. It can feel so much easier and more sustainable to show up when you're deeply connected to your why. So I want to invite you to reflect on what is your why and what's the why behind the work that you do. Write it down and post it somewhere where you can see it daily. And I want to remind you that our May Consistency Challenge starts soon inside my Get Organized at Work podcast community. The community is free and it's a way for us to carry on the conversation after the episodes. And every day in May, we're going to have every week, we're going to have weekly challenges in May. I'm going to be showing up daily in our free podcast community, giving you tips, and I'm going to help you with like journal prompts and templates and things to help you stay consistent and drive purpose together inside the community. We're going to help set the momentum for the rest of the year because, as I said on last podcast, May is, April feels like, okay, it's April. It's still early in the year. May's like, wow, we're getting pretty into the year. When May is over, we're in June and we're like, wow, the year is half over. So we don't want to get left behind. We want to be set up. So we've got the ball rolling. We make progress on the goals that we're setting for ourselves this year and rocking our work and our leadership. And also thinking about how do we have a great performance review? How do we have a happy team, an engaged team? How do we retain people on our team and get them jazzed about the work that we do and our why? So we're going to do all of that in May. Can't wait to see you inside the Get Organized at Work podcast community. If you love this episode, share it with a coworker and tell them to join the challenge with you too. It'll be fun. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode next week. Take care.